All right, let's dive right in and uncover a tree's single most important measurement. And you know what? It's probably not the one you're thinking of.
You know, it's so easy to look up at a massive tree and think, wow, that's tall, and assume its height is the whole story. But if you really want to understand its health, its needs, even get a clue about its age, well, there's a much more important number we need to get our hands on.
So yeah, it's the diameter. But that brings up a pretty big question, right? How in the world do you measure the distance through a tree without, cutting it down? You can't just drill a hole through it. The secret, and it's actually pretty clever, is to measure the distance around it first.
Okay, so let's get into that core secret. We're going to see how a simple measurement you can take with any old tape measure unlocks the professional standard, the one that tells us so much about a tree.
Think of it like this. The circumference, or the girth, is what you can actually wrap your tape measure around. That's your raw data. But the diameter, that's the gold standard. It's the number that foresters and arborists use for pretty much every important calculation you can imagine.
And the bridge between those two measurements? Oh, it's only one of the most famous numbers in all of math, pi. It's kind of like this magic constant that connects the distance around any circle to the distance straight through it. Super useful.
Because trees generally grow in nice round rings, we can basically treat the trunk like a simple circle. And that means we can use a super simple formula. Just take the circumference you measured and divide it by pi. That's it. That simple division is what turns your quick measurement into the professional standard. It's so simple, it's beautiful.
Okay, but here's a pro tip. You can't just wrap your tape measure anywhere on the trunk. If you want a measurement that's actually reliable and can be compared to trees all over the world, you have to use the universal standard. It's called DBH.
And DBH, or diameter at breast height, is absolutely crucial. Why? Because pretty much all the data out there about a tree's health, its age, even how much it's worth, is based on measuring at this one specific height. It's like a universal language for trees, so everyone's on the same page.
So what is that magic height? Well, here in the US and in other places using the imperial system, it's exactly 4.5 feet up from the ground. That's the sweet spot.
And look, they didn't just pick this number out of a hat. It's super practical. For one, it's a pretty comfortable height for most adults to measure, but way more importantly, it gets you up above the root flare. You know that part at the very base of the tree where it kind of widens out? If you measure there, your numbers are going to be way off, totally inflated. So 4.5 feet gets you a much more accurate picture.
But what if the ground isn't perfectly flat? I mean, when is it ever? This is how the pros handle it. If you're on a slope, you always start your measurement from the uphill side. See, if you measured from the downhill side, you'd end up too low on the trunk, right back in that wonky root flare zone we want to avoid.
And of course, trees have their own personalities, right? They don't always grow perfectly straight. So what do you do with a leaning tree or one that forks or has a big old bump right where you need to measure? Don't worry, there are standard workarounds for all of that. The main goal is always the same. Get the truest, most representative measurement of that main trunk you possibly can.
All right, so you've done the work, you've got the diameter. Now for the fun part. What does this one little number actually tell you? Well, it turns out it unlocks some seriously powerful and really practical secrets about the tree. And one of the biggest, most important uses for this is figuring out how to protect the tree. This is huge, especially if you're in a city or a suburb. That diameter you just measured is your roadmap to protecting the most vital part of the tree, its root system, which is hiding just under the ground.
And there's this fantastic rule of thumb that pros use all the time. It's called the foot per inch rule. It's so simple, but it's incredibly powerful for preventing major root damage when there's construction or even just landscaping happening nearby.
So check it out. If your tree has a 20-inch diameter, the rule says you need a protected zone with a 20-foot radius. That means your quick measurement around the trunk just told you exactly where to put up a fence to keep it safe. It's a simple number that leads to a life-saving action.
But wait, there's more. The usefulness of diameter just keeps going. It's the number one thing you need to estimate a tree's age. It helps us figure out if a whole forest is healthy or getting too crowded. And yeah, in the timber industry, it's how they figure out how much lumber they can get from a single log. It's a real workhorse of a measurement.
Okay, so now you know how to measure and, more importantly, why it matters. Let's talk about the tools for the job.
So the pros have this cool gadget called a diameter tape or a D-tape. It's pretty slick. It actually has the pi math built right into it. The little markings on the tape are already stretched out, so when you wrap it around the tree, it just tells you the diameter directly. But here's the thing. For the rest of us, a normal tape measure and a calculator do the exact same thing. The calculator basically just becomes your own digital D-tape.
Just one more quick thing to keep in mind. The number you get from this is called the diameter outside bark, or DOB. And for almost everything we've talked about, protecting roots, estimating age, checking on its health, that is exactly the number you want. So you're all set.
So, are you ready to find out what the trees around you are actually telling you? With just one simple measurement, you can unlock this whole new understanding of the trees in your backyard or at the park. Suddenly, you'll know how to protect them, you can get a good guess at their age, you start to see them not just as pretty scenery, but as living things that you can actually measure and understand.
And hey, you don't even have to fumble with your phone's calculator and try to remember the digits of pi. We've made it super easy with a free, practical tool that does it for you instantly. The link is right down there in the description. Seriously, go grab a tape measure, find a tree, and discover what it has to tell you.